Oh, they built a PC. Oh. It's just a PC. The Xbox PC. Oh, the controller's a little different too. Xbox Series X. Okay. Hey guys, this is Austin, and today Microsoft surprise announced the brand new Xbox, I almost said one, the Xbox Series X. It is wild that they've done it so early because while we've already heard some talk about Scarlett, generally speaking, this stuff doesn't get announced properly until E3 of next year. Now, the first thing that jumps out to me is the name. The Series X sounds very much like they're sort of planning for multiple consoles. So obviously with the Xbox One S and the One X, I wouldn't be surprised, especially given the rumors, that this is only one of the brand new Xbox series of consoles, being maybe an X on the high end, an S on the low end. But that hardware, did you see it's a PC? Which it shouldn't really be particularly surprising, right? I mean, obviously this is something which is a very PC-derived architecture. I mean, we're looking at Zen cores inside. I mean, it's pretty much a Ryzen processor and like a Navi GPU. But the fact that they've gone with such a, I don't want to say boring design. I'm sure it looks great in person, but like it's different. And by different, I mean it's PC. So let's break down what's new. Now, something that this trailer doesn't really get across is the actual physical dimensions of it. So it looks big. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit smaller than it actually looks, but you can put it not only horizontally, but vertically. And on top of that, there's a lot of specific information on what's inside. So some of it we already knew. It is running AMD Zen 2 cores. Essentially, it's the third generation of Ryzen. We also do know that it is taking advantage of a very fast SSD, as well as it has the RDNA-based GPU. Now, the exact specifics of that is probably going to have to wait a little bit longer, but we know for sure this is a very powerful console. A lot of this is actually sort of backed up by not only the gameplay, but the actual pure spec of it. As this guy is not only targeting 4K 60, which I think is a very reasonable decision, but it can go all the way up to 120 frames per second, supposedly. I think the exact phrasing they used is there's the possibility of up to 120 frames per second, but they also have confirmed 8K support. Now, Microsoft is claiming that it has 4 times the processing power of the Xbox One X. Now, based on what we've done when we were trying to build our own version of the PS5 or the Series X, we found that the CPU is really the major upgrade this generation. Previously, it was really slow on not only the PS4, but especially on the Xbox. I mean, it just was not particularly fast. However, by jumping up to Ryzen, they're getting a huge jump. And I assume that that's where a lot of that 4 times better processing number comes from. However, don't count the GPU out either. I mean, with RDNA on board, you're probably looking at least twice the graphics of the already very powerful Xbox One X. And when you put that all together in a PC chassis, we get the Series X. Now, one of my big questions going into this generation that was sort of shared with last, but especially as we were coming into this one, is what is the difference between the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5? Well, Microsoft is getting out ahead by not only obviously announcing it a little bit sooner, but by showing some of the major technologies that they've worked on. So looking at a blog post that they literally just put up, there are a few things that really jump out to me. So it does support variable refresh rates, not really that special as the current generation Xbox actually does support FreeSync, although the fact that you can go all the way up to 120 frames per second is nice. I'm gonna mute my laptop now.
Sorry.
That was definitely you. That was definitely you.
Sweet. I was giving you praise.
Because both the PlayStation and Xbox sides of the camp are very much sharing what seems to be similar hardware, I'm sure there will be some differences in the actual exact spec, but the basic building blocks are very much shared. Some of the stuff that Microsoft is really highlighting here is more on the technical side. So they are showing off their variable rate shading, which apparently is patented, which I actually am not so sure exactly what makes their version different than what some other game developers have been working on, but essentially this should allow better performance with that same level of hardware by only shading the areas which are specifically needed for the games. Now, some of the other things they were really talking about is the fact they really want to cut down on latency. Now, actually, some of this is probably coming from the AMD side, as they've been really pushing a lot of their anti-lag tech to really kind of inside the driver level, kind of just cut down exactly how much sort of latency there is between when you make an action and when that frame is actually delivered. The auto low latency mode, as well as the dynamic latency input, which will make the Xbox Series X, quote, the most responsive console ever. Now, especially considering that so many TVs these days have surprisingly solid game modes, if the console itself can shave off latency, that will play a role for not only the console when you buy it, but also for the cloud, as they straight up say Xbox Series X is also designed for a future in the cloud, with unique capabilities built into the hardware and software to make it easy as possible to bring great games, blah, 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 who cares. The main idea here is that similar to what they've been doing with xCloud currently, which is essentially a bunch of Xbox One S motherboards put into a server blade. There's a little bit more to it than that. It's been overclocked and there's some additional hardware added, but it seems like a lot of the work that they were doing to customize it is being built into the Series X, which has some interesting implications. Not only can you imagine a whole server farm full of these Series X's to power the 4K streaming that you might expect on xCloud, but on top of that, you very well might be able to, if they're already baking that in, you might be able to actually do that with your home console. I can very easily imagine a scenario in which your Xbox Series X can stream to your personal device no matter where you are, sort of like your own personal cloud, or you could pay for xCloud as well. But it's actually really interesting that they made specific note to say that the Series X does have cloud capability built in on the software as well as on the hardware front. They also announced Hellblade 2, and we actually have some gameplay that was apparently captured in-engine, so it's not pure gameplay, but it was captured in-engine on the Series X. I'm literally watching this for the first time with you because this all was announced 17 seconds ago and I'm scrambling to make a video because content. Okay, that shot right there. This shot straight up looks like a real thing. Like if someone showed me that and like I'm watching a movie or something, I wouldn't question it. That's really incredible. Wow, the fidelity is incredible. And look at the depth of field. Well, this is disturbing. This is very disturbing. Wow. So the thing that's really jumping out to me looking at this footage is not so much about resolution, right? So when you look at the current generation of consoles, they were generally speaking built for 1080p, and then the upgraded PS4 Pro and the One X were really just taking those same games and bringing them up to a 4K resolution. That's fine, but pixels aren't everything. Team Crispy is not the only thing that you care about. So the thing that I'm really sort of getting here is the level of detail inside that 4K frame, right? I mean, you could run Half-Life 1 at 4K, but it doesn't mean it's a true 4K experience without having everything that goes along with it. The high resolution textures, the incredible level of detail that is provided by what I'm assuming is a very large amount of memory on these, as well as just all of the little effects work and stuff. Like this looks, I mean, it actually looks like a generational leap, which is nice. And I think in a large part that's going to be due not only to the GPU, but the CPU is also going to be able to handle much larger worlds, much more physics. Looking at this footage, we are not that far away from fairly photorealistic real-time graphics. So yeah, sure, when we look at like the actual facial model, it's not quite there. You can tell there's a little tiny bit of it's not quite uncanny valley, but you can tell this is fake. When you look at some of the landscapes, some of the vistas that are capable on the Series X, I mean, that's incredible. Like this, honestly, I'm surprised. This looks better than what you can find even on like a lot of high-end PC games, which makes sense because the Series X is a high-end PC with actual money and development spent on optimization. The controller is also, well, technically all new. However, it actually looks very, very similar to the One. So the main things I see different here is that the D-pad looks similar to what we get on the Elite Series 2, and there looks to be an added share button on it. And beyond that, it's an Xbox One controller, which does make sense. So as I mute my laptop for the 4th time in this video, the thing that sort of makes this generation interesting is that there is a lot of crossplay. So as I was going to get into in a second, but I'll just talk about now, the Xbox Series X is capable of running pretty much all older Xbox titles. So all the work that Microsoft has done on getting the Xbox One to run, say, original Xbox games or 360, all that's being ported over to the Series X. So you should be able to still continue to play your original games, 360, as well as your Xbox One games on the Series X. And part of that is also including accessories. So there's actually a really interesting quote here. So they say, the new Xbox wireless controller will be compatible with the older Xbox One as well as Windows 10, and all of your current Xbox One gaming accessories will work on the Series X, besides maybe Kinect. So the Xbox Series, I want to say Xbox One so bad. The Xbox Series X will be going on sale holiday 2020. We don't have a price. I assume that is actually something we will have to wait for E3 on. But it is incredibly exciting, right? I love consoles, I love new generations because it pushes the entire industry forward. Even if you're a hardcore PlayStation fan, even if you're a hardcore PC fan, the fact that a new generation of consoles are coming out very much means that gaming will get better across the board, right? developers will target these new consoles, the overall level of graphics and the fidelity will come up because that's the new base standard, and everyone will win because of it. I'm very curious, what do you guys think about the Xbox Series X? Let me know, and in the meantime, I'm going to continue trying to get that Hellblade 2 trailer out of my head.